Well, happy Friday, fellow Texans. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. So, the Supreme Court has struck down the tariffs. Will Trump strike Iran? See what I did there? Kind of weave together the two big stories of the day. Because I was starting off thinking when I woke up this morning, number one story is going to be Iran. Well, then we had the Supreme Court announce that they are shutting down the tariffs, or are they? So if you are just joining the talk radio conversation, I know you all day listeners are caught up on this. Let me catch up everyone else. Great package. The second the Supreme Court decision was announced this morning, Stuart Varney on Fox Business threw it to his reporter Lydia Hugh, and she had probably the best breakdown I saw this morning. Now, you'll get updated after this, but this is what the story was. About what? 9 o'clock this morning?
Breaking news out of Washington. The Supreme Court has just ruled on tariffs. The market's going up. What's the ruling?
Stuart, the Supreme Court is striking down Trump's use of emergency powers to impose tariffs. These are the tariffs that are imposed through the so-called IEPA statute, the Emergency Economic Powers. I can tell you right now, as I'm just getting into the decision, it appears to me to be a 6-3 decision. Chief Justice Roberts authoring the decision, being joined by Sotomayor, Kagan, Gorsuch, Barrett, and Justice Jackson. It appears that Thomas, Kavanaugh, and Alito are dissenting. So some division here across the court. I'm going to get into it and tell you more. I can tell you there are some open questions still. What this means for companies that have paid tariffs, whether or not they would get refunds. When does this decision take effect? Is there going to be some delay, some ramp-up period? But for now, the headline is that the Supreme Court is striking down Trump's use of IEPA to impose tariffs.
Okay, so those questions were all great, but still a lot of complications, a little bit of gray area just from the beginning of the conversation that we were having this morning. And then about an hour ago, Donald Trump got out on the podium. And I'm not so sure if the tariffs are over because he doesn't sound like they're over. Let me walk you through this whole thing because this is about it's like a 30-minute speech and then they started asking questions. Wait, 20-minute speech and then they started asking questions for about another 30 minutes. But look, I can distill all this down into 6 quick bites. Ready? Here's the beginning. Donald Trump came out. First things first, we all expected this. Of course, he thinks the Supreme Court is wrong on their decision on his tariffs.
The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country.
So about 3 minutes later, he starts talking like he has options. Like he just throws this out there, and I don't know what these options are. You don't know what the options are. Like, what's it? You can still do tariffs?
The good news is that there are methods, practices, statutes, and authorities, as recognized by the entire court in this terrible decision, and also as recognized by Congress, which they refer to, that are even stronger than the IEPA tariffs available to me as President of the United States.
Oh, see, now it's starting to make sense. Now he's saying, yeah, the Supreme Court struck down the tariffs, but those were IEPA tariffs. I have other methods and avenues by which I can enact tariffs beyond the IEPA. So are we not done here? He goes back to talking about how the tariffs were effective. So this was in the best interest of the American people. The emergency was addressed and the economic numbers prove it.
Effectively utilized tariffs over the past year to make America great again. Our stock market has just recently broken 50,000 on the Dow.
And then he also talked about how he used tariffs to end wars, which isn't nothing. Because part of the designation of this is an emergency national security interest. Well, if you're stopping wars to do it, doesn't that sort of bolster that argument that there is a national security component to this?
Tariffs have likewise been used to end 5 of the 8 wars that I settled. I settled 8 wars, whether you like it or not, including India, Pakistan, big ones, nuclear, could have been nuclear.
Okay, now we have to fast forward about 7 minutes where he gets back to the idea that he can still do tariffs. The idea that he could do tariffs wasn't struck down. The idea that he could unilaterally do IEPA tariffs, something I'm kind of new to, by the way. But he says again, this is 12 and a half minutes into the speech, he can still do tariffs.
The Supreme Court did not overrule tariffs. They merely overruled a particular use of IEEPA tariffs. And essentially, it's used to get a fee. I can do anything I want with IEEPA, anything. I just can't charge anybody for it. I can license, I just can't charge them. It's ridiculous, but it's okay because we have other ways, numerous other ways.
Oh, really? Well, then before he even gets there, because I'm going to skip ahead 2 more minutes, you're already thinking what he's about to say. Well, if there's still ways you can do tariffs, why are you just going to sign another piece of paper and this whole same tariff thing keeps going? Is there even going to be any change? Are the tariffs still on or are the tariffs off?
Therefore, effective immediately, all national security tariffs under Section 232 and existing Section 301 tariffs, they're existing, they're there, remain in place, fully in place, and in full force and effect.
All right. Well, I don't know how that works, but my next guest will kind of clear some of it up. Hopefully, I was trying to figure out what are these other avenues that he's using. Did he mention any laws? No, he mentioned a couple numbers there, and he didn't go into detail at the press conference. But there was one point in the question and answer session. Let me scoot up here. Now we're like 29 minutes into this. I watched all this for you. You understand that? He just turns back to some egghead behind him and says, what were the specifics on that, Jameson? Now, I know nothing else about this guy other than his name is Jameson, and he looks like he weighs 140 pounds. But
yes, sir. So to the president's point, we have a lot of tools out there. We have Section 122, which will be implemented today. It will be signed today and implemented very shortly. We have Section 301 investigations, which are incredibly legally durable, where we can investigate and address unfair trading practices that have led to our huge trade deficit.
aha, there it is. So sat through the whole thing just to get you the details there. So he's going to use the powers that are granted to him through some other channel to, air quotes, investigate unfair trade practices. And I don't remember what that first one was, the 203.
To the president's point, we have a lot of tools out there. We have Section 122, which will be implemented today. It will be signed today and implemented.
Yeah, that's one. I don't know what that one is. So maybe I'll get you some more answers here. But now you're all caught up. That was just a speech that happened an hour and 15 minutes ago. So, yeah, when you woke up this morning, it wasn't even on your mind. By the time I was done with the morning shift, we were thinking the tariffs are off. Now it sounds like the tariffs are still back on. Is Trump out of control? Do you think he can really do this? 800-288-9227. My next guest has a little more expertise in the field, having been in D.C. himself. Jim Renacci's on the James Show next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, on your home for Mark Lee Van Camp and Robbins. They're on from 11-2 before the James Show. Three funny guys, give them a shot. Jim Renacci is my next guest. He's a former congressman out of Ohio. Spent some time up there. A lot more time in the political sphere than you or I probably. But Jim, first things first, a lot of people are asking is, even if the Supreme Court strikes down Trump's tariffs, couldn't Congress just pick this up, write it down into law, and pass it? So what do you think when he says he has alternatives and there's other powers through other statutes that enable him to keep the tariffs going? Yeah, it's probably never going to end with that. Do you think Congress will even attempt to do something about this? You don't get the feeling that they could do something sneaky or just really more opportunistic than sneaky by just stacking it in the next omnibus? We're talking with Jim Renacci, a former congressman. You know, the common man out there finds it frustrating that the will of the Republican voters, the will of the Republican president can be stopped by the inaction of the Republicans in Congress. And we don't know how to fix it, Jim. Well, you've been in a lot of elections. What's your thoughts on the Jasmine Crockett, James Tallarico, Colbert controversy? Because, like right now, where I'm broadcasting from, our studio is in Jasmine Crockett's district, and it feels weird to take her side on an issue. All right. Where can we find your work these days? Thank you very much. Coming up next on the James Show, more reaction to the Supreme Court decision blocking Trump's tariffs. Your response is welcome as well. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
So quickly on set to talk about this monumental decision. Take it away.
Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Top story of the day, the Supreme Court strikes down Trump's tariffs, and then Trump says, fine, I'm still going to do the tariffs anyway. So where does that put us? Here's what we're going to do. I have my own legal analyst coming on in the next hours, Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com. He's a great lawyer. Not so sure about his choice in glasses. But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to play you about 3 minutes of Andrew Napolitano. Yeah, the judge. He's now the senior legal analyst for Newsmax. And he did about a crystal clear as it can get breakdown. It's only going to take 3 minutes. Now, I have questions after I listen to this. You're going to have questions after you listen to this. Think about what those questions are. Send them to me. And then this is what we're going to run by Jeremy Rosenthal when he comes on the show. I think at 3:15, 3:20-ish, depending on how disciplined I can be about watching the clock here. But here's Andrew Napolitano, Judge Napolitano.
Well, we thought it would probably go this way just from the, and good morning, guys.
Good morning. Nice to see you,
be
Judge.
with you.
Morning, Judge.
I was in another part of the building when this came down, but happy to be part of the team at a moment like this. The oral argument seemed to indicate that President Trump needed the permission of Congress in order to enact tariffs, and that is indeed what the court ruled. Pretty basic. The first authority given to Congress in the Constitution is the power to tax, and it's only given to Congress. And what is a tariff? It's a sales tax. It may be beneficial to the economy, but it's a tax, and taxes can only be imposed by the Congress. Tariffs are as integral to America as going back to Thomas Jefferson. And they've been enacted by presidents, but only with express authority from the Congress. Congress did not give President Trump authority to impose these tariffs. Now, fortunately, this decision is not retroactive. If it had been retroactive, it would have been, as you guys were talking about when I walked into the studio, a monumental task to figure out, well, who paid these things?
Yes.
Where does the money come from to pay them back, and who gets the money back? Studies have shown that about 92% of the tariffs have been paid by the ultimate consumer, and 8% have been absorbed somewhere along the line between the consumer and the manufacturer. There are many middlemen in there as the products move from foreign countries to the United States. So that's where we stand now. This is politically a tremendous rebuke of the president, which I don't think he expected, particularly at this particular time while he's weighing an attack on Iran.
And as the State of the Union is just coming up.
And the State of the Union is coming up on Tuesday. There were rumors that there were great divisions in the court, and it was flipping back and forth, 5-4, 4-5, and that's why it took so long for this decision to come out. The rumors were nonsense. It's 6-3. It's a substantial majority, and for better or for worse, it's the law of the land. What does the president do now? You got Republican majorities in both houses of Congress. Ask them for authority to impose tariffs.
Novel idea. Novel idea. Well, what do you make of that ruling being so lopsided, 6-3? I don't think people expected that.
No, I don't think they did either. But and I know you got Jimmy Rosen, who can talk about the political coming up, my dear friend and longtime colleague from the other network where we worked. He'll talk about the political aspects, but legally, a lot of this is what we call textualism. Just reading the text. Whatever you think of Donald Trump, you may love him. Whatever you think of tariffs, you may think they're great. The text says only Congress can impose taxes. So,
And Judge, I'm going to say that's what judges ideally are supposed to do. It
Correct.
doesn't matter what one's personal opinion or leanings are.
Correct.
It is about, again, upholding the ultimate law of the land, which
All right, so that's the breakdown from Napolitano on Newsmax, and that was 9:15 our time this morning about when it was happening. Now, we were talking about this plenty on the morning shift here, but it all boils down to what was just mentioned there. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. It's the legislative branch's article. Section 8 is where they give you the list, and it's not very long, of the powers of Congress, the laws that they're actually allowed to make. And yeah, the first thing it says in this Article 1, Section 8, the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. And then it continues to pay the debts, provide for the common defense, general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. Then it moves on. That's all it says on the topic right there. Unless you want to say to regulate commerce with the foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. That sounds like it kind of overlaps, because what we're doing is trade deals. So even if you look at it from that angle, that is given to Congress. That power is supposed to be exercised by Congress. Problem is, Congress doesn't want to. And it's not that Congress wants to stop Donald Trump. It's not like they're they can say they're against it or they can say they're for it. They're not passing a damn thing. They don't even have a bill together. They're not even voting on anything. They're not even debating anything. What tariff package is out there right now? So this is something that, whether you're on Team Red or Team Blue, do you feel like you're on an island here? Because if you're on Team Red, everyone is saying this, we back Trump, we back the tariffs. This is Congress's job. The first question my Team Red friends should have is, well, why don't you write these tariffs in a bill and pass it? Just like Napolitano said. Same thing for my Team Blue friends. If this really is awful and terrible and tyrannical and what literally Hitler would do, why don't you put together a bill and make the Republicans vote on it? Do you think it'll pass? I mean, you can't get 3 people to defect out of the House of Representatives. I mean, if it was literally Hitler, couldn't you do it? Are you afraid of it passing? So it seems like neither side wants to touch this. And I find that curious and kind of disappointing because the power is given to Congress. Congress says we don't want to touch it. So Trump says, fine, I'll control it. And they're like, no, you can't do it either. Well, so what? No one's going to be in charge of our tariff policies. We can't have any sort of strategy concerning using tariffs to get better trade deals or enact some sort of concessions from other people on the world stage. What a weird purgatory to be in. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, sounds like we're going to strike Iran. If not this weekend, then maybe within 10 days. And I'll play the audio showing you where that comes from next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.